If your horse only responds when you mean it, or you're always pushing, chasing, otherwise nagging your horse to keep going, they're not sensitive to your aids. They're not trained to your energy. They're trained by fear of your intensity. And that is exactly what's going to keep you from ever having true self-carriage. Today, we're going to talk about how playfulness is a door to one of the most advanced skills in riding, refined, responsive self-carriage. Welcome, friends and fellow horse fiends. I'm Anna Fox of Equus Enlightened, and this is the Thinking Horseman Rider, the podcast dedicated to training you to become the best possible partner for your horse. Here, we explore the science and soul of horsemanship. We dive into equine behavior, the psychology of partnership, and compassionate training methods that help you become a thinking rider who creates a thinking horse. Because when you understand how your horse's mind works and show up with empathy and presence, everything gets easier and a whole lot more fun. My goal is to keep riding easy and fun for everyone, while helping you deepen your connection, find more flow, and maybe even create your own unicorn along the way. Whether you're working on dressage movements or just trying to understand why your horse did that thing they did, we'll explore the research, the real talk, and the small shifts that make a big difference in and out of the saddle. So grab your boots, take a deep breath. What are you waiting for? Come ride with me. Last week, we talked about all the playful things with Georgia and how it's not the only way to roam, as Georgia said, but it is one way. And for a lot of horses, it's a bonus way because most horses like play. And most humans do too. As adults, we've generally learned to suppress it in favor of safety. But you can have play and a playful mindset and still have safety. They can go together. A lot of people think when I talk about playfulness that, I'm being extra. And honestly, when I first was introduced to the concept by a couple of mentors, I kind of thought the same thing. But as time went on, I came to see that they were right. To this day, extroverted playfulness is not my thing, but I can have a playful mindset with the horses, and I can let them know they're appreciated and show them joy for doing the things I ask. A lot of times, that is something that gets lost for people when they're training their horses, and then they wonder why their horses don't do what they want them to do, or they kind of sort of do it, but they're never excited about it. It's mostly because there's no clarity. Your horse doesn't really know what you want. Horses like happy people. They like other happy horses. So if you can show them that and you can communicate in their way, you can be way more clear. And in being more clear, you're going to be more safe. As we talked about with Georgia, playfulness is what creates a nervous system that can actually learn. Because fear, even if it's just a minor fear, still derails the nervous system and makes learning less effective. When you're in that playful state, you're curious, experimenting, not afraid to be wrong, not afraid to mess it up, not afraid to look silly. You stay open in your mind, and your horse stays open to the possibilities too. Now, here's the part people don't always connect. You cannot create autonomy or self-carriage in a system that feels like pressure. Think about yourself for a second. When do you do your best work? Is it when someone's hovering over you, micromanaging, expecting perfection? Or when you understand the assignment, feel safe enough to try, and have a little room to figure it out on your own. Or even simpler, have you ever tried to think clearly while someone is rushing you or questioning everything you're doing? It's the same for horses. Through this podcast series, we've been talking about awareness, you being in a noticing state instead of reacting, empathic discipline, you stay clear without interruptions from that judgy part of your mind and without force, shared communication where you're actually gathering data from your horse and not just giving orders, and playfulness, removing the fear of being wrong. Through these things, we start to get that sense of feel. And then we can have our own sense of autonomy and also give our horses a sense of autonomy as well. Your horse begins to offer things instead of just wait. And they can still wait when you're waiting. That's where the partnership really starts to feel different. I want to give you a practical look at how this works. I like to call it the energy ladder. And it is one of my favorite concepts. So we'll definitely be working on it at my Happy Horse Camp and the Happy Horse Day, which are clinics we have scheduled for May and June. Horses don't learn from pressure, and we've been taught that they do. Horses learn better from patterns and the release of pressure. But they need to understand some things first. They need to understand when to respond to your pressure, how much to respond to your pressure, and when they've done enough. And the problem is, most of us are wildly inconsistent with those boundaries. They are things that we should be really finite about, and we're not. We're muddled and we're gray and we're wishy-washy, fuzzy, cloudy, whatever words you want to use to describe unclear. That is how most people are with their responsiveness age. And then they wonder why their horses aren't responsive. There are ways that we can work on that and we can make it better and get out of that habit of sometimes being soft and sometimes being too intense and then sometimes just hanging on for dear life, right? The horse in those moments is left going, I don't actually know what you want, but I'm trying to do something. And usually what you see is that a horse is either going to get anxious or they're going to get dull. And the solution for that is energy scaling. That lets the horse have a predictable idea of what's happening. And the reason that we see a lot of dullness in horses is because by nature, horses should be energy conservationists. They are built to be foraging around, looking at the ground, finding things to nibble on, and then occasionally run from predators. But when they need to run from predators, they usually need to do it quick and in a hurry. So they are storing energy to be used in a flash. Then they're back to storing energy in their normal ethological state, right? That's what they would do. But that's not how horses live with humans. And so a lot of times there's just this, I don't really know what energy I should have right now, so I'm just going to kind of always be like this. Teach your horse what energy you prefer and model it. What I think about is number one, start lighter than you think. Always start with the lightest intention you can imagine. So for me, that is usually when I think, do this, go, stop, turn left, turn right, get out of my way, whatever it is. When I think it, I want my horse to do it, or at least think about doing it. And then build your energy in consistent steps. Be clear and consistent until you are clear and consistent with the steps. Yes, the horse also needs to learn the steps that you are going to use. But if you think of 4 steps, it's going to be 4 steps that you're going to use. And then you say, I got it. I got these 4 steps. Then you ask your horse 4 times and you expect them to know. They may have an idea, but if you come back the next day and go, oh man, I've been to work. I've had to put kids to bed. I've had to get kids up and get ready for school. I've done all these things in between. What do I need to do? What were those steps again? And your horse is like, well, these weren't the same steps you used yesterday, so now I'm confused. You're going to pick 4 steps to your aids. Don't skip any. Follow through with them. You're going to give a big release when you see the slightest try. And that may be half a step. It might be a head up. It might be ears up. It might be an eye opening, questioning you. In the beginning, you're not going to notice those really subtle signs. You're going to expect your horse to do 4 steps of whatever you asked, at least. Think about getting the least but most responsive reaction possible. Okay. The release is what teaches here, and the pattern. The energy that you present to the horse, just ask them the question. And so if you're presenting your energy like, oh, can you go? Can you go? Or can you, or go now? Your horse is going to respond appropriately most of the time. Sometimes if you have what you want to call a dull horse, you might say, go now. And they're like, yeah, because you did that yesterday and then you still had to smack me on the butt with a stick because I don't really know. Sometimes you want me to go and sometimes you when I go too much, you get mad and right? So they're not clear. You also have to understand that if you ask for a big amount of energy and your horse gives you a big amount of energy, you don't punish it. Go with it to the best of your ability. If you're afraid that your horse is going to get away from you, do it in an enclosed area so they can't go anywhere. But you can't turn around and then punish the horse for doing what you asked. If you think the horse over responded to your ask, then you need to titrate your ask back to something a little less energetic. So, for instance, if you're thinking about getting your horse to, let's say, go trotting on the lunge line, and you've got them out and they're walking in a circle around you, and I really want my horses, if my horse is going right, I want to be able to lift my right hand and kind of look right, smile, and say, can you go? And I want them to go, yes, I can. Or at least go, ooh, do you need me? And then I can back it up with whatever the next step on my ladder is. Say, yeah, I need you to go forward. Then as soon as they do, I say, thank you. Now, what that might look like, and I'm not here to tell you what aids to use. You choose what works for you. For me, it's the thinking, the intention of, can you go? And my body language saying, can you go? The next thing I might do is if I have a tool, a stick, I might wave it. So I would probably behind me say, hey, flick my wrist with whatever stick, flick the stick so that they know that you want them to go. If that doesn't cause any sort of reaction, then I can maybe make a bigger move with the stick and maybe sort of move towards them with my body and be like, hey, I'm talking, right? And a bigger flick of my stick or my rope or whatever I've got. Then, if they don't go, I like to use a noise. So I might flick my stick onto the ground. Depending on the horse, sometimes I will tag them. Like I might put the stick on their butt and say, hey, not in a mean and a harsh way, but it's just a hey, there's something there. Are you paying attention? And then see what happens. Now, if I have a horse that's really dull to all of those aids, I might go the opposite way and try something like positive reinforcement and teach them to go with a food motivator because they understand that better. Depends on the horse. But generally, when I'm really clear with my energy, I don't have any problem getting a horse to go. And I don't usually need a tool. Sometimes I like one because I have short arms and I'm a little person and it makes me feel a little bigger. But I don't need to use it on the horse to make them move. The important thing is, at whatever stage in that process they start to go, I immediately release. Thank you very much. You can, go pet them, do whatever if you want. Or you can reset and say, okay, let's try again. A big mistake that most people make is that once the horse goes, they maintain whatever energy. So now they've got the horse trotting on the circle, and I'm going to stand here. And I somewhat blame Pony Club for this, right? I'm going to stand here in this position and I'm going to make the horse keep going round. Well, what that does is it doesn't release the pressure. So as the horse is trotting around now on the lunge line for 20 minutes with the side reins attached, he's like, I have no idea why I'm doing this or what the point is or anything like that. I'm a drone, and that's what I'm doing. So in the beginning, when you ask the horse to go, you say, can you go? And the horse says yes. Then you say, well, thank you very much. And you might say, well, can you go again? And the idea by saying, can you go again is now I want to see how refined can I make that aid? Will you go off of my intention, off of my, can you go? And that is my goal, to get all my horses to that point. So how do I get there? Well, once I have put my 4 rungs of my ladder into practice consistently for several sessions, and I've given my horse time to understand, it's also important as you walk through the sessions to give your horse time to figure it out. So if I say, can you go? And they do nothing, then I go, but could you go? And then I go, but I really want you to go. And then I know you can go, right? As I go through that, I have to give them time to understand what I'm doing. And then I have to give that release when it happens. I don't have to go through all 4 phases. If they go on phase 3, cool. Even bigger release, thank you very much. But now, what happens to a lot of people is we forget to do the first 2 rungs of our ladder. We go, can you go? And we did 1 and 2 together. And so we really did 3. And so the horse learns, well, yeah, I can go on 3, but then every time, and then pretty soon you're having to do 4 because they got used to 3 and you didn't check up on it every now and then. So Check up on it often and always try to go off what your lightest aid is. And there is nothing that says that as you get this more refined and you get better and your horse gets more responsive, you can't make your phase one even less. Horses feel a fly. They communicate mostly empathically. They do not need your strong aids or your voice to know what you want them to do. You just have to be quiet enough in everything else so that when you think it, your body's going to think about doing it. It's just a matter of you having the self-control to teach yourself to be quiet the rest of the time. Quiet, but in an actively following way. So you're kind of maintaining energy. This is where I think things like yoga and Pilates really help because they kind of teach you how to maintain. Martial arts are good for something like that too. Those types of sports tend to help you understand how you need to maintain. I think even board sports, right? Skiing, snowboarding, those are helpful too because when you're going, if you're just cruising down a slope, you still have to maintain some integrity, some tensegrity in your body to be ready to respond, right? Same thing when you're on your horse. And you got to keep your mind on the mountain if you're if you're doing a snow sport or on the street if you're skateboarding. Same thing with your horse. But a lot of people, you get up there and then you forget and then you start thinking about all the other things, or you start thinking about all the things you think you should be doing. I should be walking, I should be trotting, I should be cantering, my heels should be down, my shoulders should be back, I should be looking up, my horse should be doing this by now, and it's not, and then it's too much. This is another part of empathic discipline as well, where you have to train yourself to use this energy ladder, to live and die by it, and to make it the best tool in your toolbox. You will thank me later. Once you have made this the best tool in your toolbox, you have really gone through the steps and you understand it, your horse understands it, you're really clear, then it starts to get fun. You can refine this as much as you want. Like I said, you can teach your horse to go off a thought, off a breath, whatever, to stop off a thought or a breath, to do all kinds of things. You've seen it in action. You've seen these wonderful Liberty videos. You've seen people riding bridleless. It is doable, and it's really not that hard if you are consistent. Just put a little more attention into it than you're used to. Once the horse understands the ladder, now you start to play with it, and that's how you start to refine your asks. If you want your horse to respond quicker, let's say they're typically responding now at like the second rung of your ladder, but you'd really like them to do it at your first intention, or maybe even half of that intention, you'd like to get some attention. To do that, you can do two things, and I use them interchangeably depending on the horse, and it may also depend on what I'm asking for and how well the horse understands it. You're going to either leave out rungs in your ladder. So if the horse starts to respond to you at your first rung and you start to think, can you do this? And the horse is like, oh, I think you're going to ask me a question. Now you can move right into your fourth energy rung. You can just say, yes, it's that thing. And then the horse is, okay, yeah, I can do that. I would do that 3 times in a row and see, does your horse get quicker and quicker off of your intention. The other thing that you can do, and this is especially if the horse is still in the trying to understand what you want phase, is just move through your steps more quickly. For instance, I am asking the horse to back up. The first thing I'm going to do is sort of lift my own body, project my own bubble out, and say, hey, can you back up? And the next thing I would do might be to make some motion with my hand or the rope and say, hey, go back. And if there's no response there, the third rung of my ladder would be just a bigger response, right? And then a fourth rung of my ladder might be either using a hand or a tool on them to say go back, or like, flicking a stick or the rope out in front of them so that it creates something that they want to step back from. If those are the four rungs of my ladder and I say, can you go back? And my horse kind of goes, I think I'm supposed to do something, but I don't know what. I could go back, 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 right? And then I just moved through those rungs faster. And the horse is like, oh, okay. The next time, if I go, can you back up? And then maybe I go to my second rung, they're like, oh, yeah, I can back up. So now I can go, now I know you understand what I'm asking. So now is when I might go, can you? And when the horse looks at me like, I think I can, then you go, rung four, I know you can. None of that is done in a aggressive, mean, frustrated, emotional way. We are simply creating energy, more energy, and asking the horse to move off of that. You don't need to do anything that you feel like is going to either be misinterpreted by your horse or hurt your horse, anything like that. It's not necessary. You can pick what things you want to use, what aids you want to use. You just have to be consistent and clear about them and use them in a way that shows the energy that you're trying to project. That is a hard thing for a lot of people because we are not often in control of our energy and our bodies anyway. We live a lot more in our heads these days than we do in our physical bodies. Really having control over your physical body and being able to express that energy in that physical sense is part of this process and part of what can really help you make a good connection and have a great partnership with your horse because that is what they understand. Mix up these methods, either the leave rungs out or skip rungs altogether. That it's a form of play. The horses get into it too. They're like, "Oh, I bet I can go before you ask." And yes, your horse might start to anticipate some things, but that is why you have to be cleared. That means you have to be in enough control of your own body and mind that you are clear about the difference in those asks. It can seem like a really hard thing to master, but if you spend a little more time on it, if you are really diligent, you learn it, it becomes a habit, it carries on to every other horse you work with, and then it just becomes a part of your life, and you don't even have to think about it anymore. It's those four stages of learning, right? And so most of us get stuck in that conscious competence where we know that we're not doing it exactly right and we just get frustrated. And then we don't get to the point of being unconsciously competent. This is one of the reasons that I love using that rule of threes. Try it 3 times. If it's getting better, cool. If the fourth time or even the third time your horse is like, I got you, then it's a big release, big praise, things are working. If you do it 3 times and it's not changing or it's getting worse or your horse is offering all kinds of other things, something's not clear. So you have a really quick way to figure out, am I being clear or am I not? And you can fix it, right? Rather than trying for 45 minutes and seeing no change and wondering what the heck is going on, or lunging your horse for half an hour and they're doing the same thing and you're not seeing any change. Try it 3 times. Is something changing? Great. If not, make a change. Make another change. Play with it some more. When we talk about people projecting their energy and being in charge of that physical, emotional part of your body, most people fall into 2 camps, 2 pitfall camps. The too nice rider, who is trying to be soft and kind and not too much, and they want to do all the things right, but there's no clarity. The horse is like, I appreciate that you're nice and kind, and but I don't really know what's happening here. I'm getting nervous because I don't know what's happening here. Or you have a horse that just starts to ignore you because they don't know what you're asking and they're confident, so they're just gonna go off into their own thing. This has me thinking we should do an episode about different types of horse personalities and human personalities and how they mix or don't mix well. But in any event, the other big pitfall group is the don't lose it, don't do that, more sort of aggressive, I've got this, but they don't know how to shut it off once they do get it. So they get a response from the horse and then they're in their pony club lunging stance and they're not going to let it go because that horse got to keep going. Well, then you never let the pressure off. So then you generally have a horse that's either going to continue to build energy or build frustration and do some sort of unwanted behavior. Or you have a horse again that gets dull and is just like, well, you're going to do your thing, and so I'm just going to do my thing. Sometimes you're going to have a horse that comes to you with one of those traits because of how they were trained previously. It's your job to now figure out how to untrain that behavior, unwind that behavior. But it's much easier when you're in control of yourself and you know what you want the horse to do and you can communicate it clearly. You can clearly show the horse when they've done the right thing. That horse will unlearn that dull behavior or that explosive, bratty behavior way quicker than if you're being too nice or if you're being too much. Everybody likes balance, right? We all like the middle. The middle's the comfortable place to be. We all love our horses. We all want the best for our horses, right? Horses do not thrive on kindness alone. They certainly don't thrive on pressure alone. What they thrive on is clarity. And they want to be part of a group. They want to be part of something. If we can make them feel like they are part of this discussion with us about the energy ladder, then our horses are much more willing and much more able to contribute to the process with us. I want you to think of that energy as being alive, responsive, and adjustable. And when I say that, isn't that exactly what you want your horse to feel like? Now, I know some of us are in the camp of, I don't know how alive I want my horse to feel, but we don't want them to drop out from underneath us. We want them to be responsive, and we want all of that to be adjustable, whether we're on top of them or whether we're on the ground. So you want to mimic that. Remember, horses love synchronicity as well, right? They want to be part of something. So the more you can project that level of energy, the more your horse is going to get it, and the horse is going to be with you. This is why self-awareness matters so much. Your horse is already responding to you. Whether you realize it or not, they can feel you coming before they even see you. Having that degree of emotional intelligence or energy intelligence, maybe I've made up my own new word. I don't know. The energy intelligence, I like that. We're going to stick with it. That will help you more than any skills, techniques, aids you can learn. I'm going to tell a story, and some of you that know me have heard this story probably a million times. I'm pretty sure I've told it on the podcast before. We'll tell it again because it shows exactly what I'm talking about here. And when I first started working with Karen Roth 20-ish years ago, I remember really clearly this one clinic moment with my horse Gus. And he is what most people would call lazy. Karen always liked to say he was an energy conservationist. Basically, he's just not going to go anywhere unless there's a reason. He's a very smart horse. We were doing an online exercise that was all about your horse mimicking your energy and getting 100% effort. And this is something that I really struggled with him, especially under saddle. So it was great to be able to see it in action online. We were supposed to send them off into whatever level of energy we wanted. On my mind, I had this like beautiful cantered apart, off he goes, right? And I was able to recreate that pretty easily. In the beginning, I thought it would be really hard because he's an energy conservationist. I thought, oh my gosh, I'm not going to be able to create this energy in the instant that I want to. But I was able to create the energy in the instant. That wasn't the problem. The problem was that once I got him going, he wouldn't stop. He actually kept building his energy, which is kind of weird to me. I only had one friend who ever rode Gus who was able to do that. I thought, what in the world is going, like, you could tell he's stressed and he's going around in these circles. And I can't get him to stop without actively asking him to stop. The exercise was to send them off and then relax down and just allow the energy to dissipate. Couldn't do it. I'm getting frustrated. And she comes over and says to me, let me try. Let me show you something. Perfect, because I'm very visual. Great for me to see. Of course, she's able to send him off and then shuts her energy down. Right away, he's not responding. But I noticed that he noticed. She turned her back and walked away from him, holding on to the line like he's not free. And that was to him, oh, oh, okay, something's changed. Then he would relax and stop. Oh, she did this maybe one more time. Then, as soon as she would exhale and tone down her energy, he would stop. I believe she realized in that moment that I did not have that skill. And she said to me, you just hold like a lot of expectations still in your posture, in the way you stand. I'm a good lunging student. What she had me do was ask him to go and then shut down the energy, but at the same time, a lot of praise. I actually would take my stick that I was using and sort of drape it over his back. It was like the big relax. We worked a couple minutes just on throwing the stick over his back. Good boy. Showing him that that was a way to shut down. And then she was able to do it in motion. He's like, I got this. Well, the first time I tried to do that, and I was like, yay, good boy, which is totally against my nature. The first time, he wants to run away from me because he's like, I don't know what you're doing. You've lost your marbles right now. But when I got the rope draped over his back and he knew what that meant, he said, okay. And he very quickly learned that my good boy was, oh, I can pause and relax. I have continued to use that with many, many horses in many different ways. I'm not always as exuberant about it as Karen had asked me to be in that moment because now I have a better control over my energy intelligence than I did. It really is something that you have to practice. You might be a little uncomfortable in the beginning. And some of you are going to be like the extroverts who are very exuberant. You may have to learn to tone it down a notch, right? For some people, they may just have this really exuberant, ah, and that's too much. So they need to be a little less exuberant with their go. But maybe their relaxation is big. This is why I call it playing with these concepts, playing and experimenting, because that is how we start to learn what we're capable of and what we're not capable of. Just because we're not capable of it right now doesn't mean we can't learn. I'm a perfect example of that. There are things that I do now that 20 years ago, people who knew me would be like, she will never do that. I do them now because they work. When I was explaining that exercise to you, did you notice that what the exercise was? Can you go and then right away shut the energy back down? That is a very important thing to note. A lot of us, especially if we have horses that are energy conservationists, once we get them going, or once we get that beautiful transition that we wanted, we then have them keep going because we don't want to lose it, right? We don't want to try again. We don't, uh, but once the horse is cantered or trotted around for one circle or less than that, they will not remember that they did that beautiful transition. So, getting a response and maintaining a response are two different things, and they should be taught at two different times. Once your horse is accustomed to both of those things, then you can combine them and you can expect a great transition and expect them to maintain it. Don't do both in the beginning. It's too much. Yes, you can train them both on the same day, but not at the same time. Does that make sense? Think about it for a little bit and see if that makes sense to you. Because I bet there's a few of you that are going to have trouble with that concept. Getting the energy and maintaining the energy are two completely different lessons. Most people mess up because they try to teach them both at the same time. Then they wonder why the horse gets dull or the horse gets over-energized and they get frustrated. At the end of this, there's going to be a time and an experiment. If you already got your newsletter this week, it's in there because I'm a little late with the podcast. I know. This week's 10-minute experiment is on getting the response. And it doesn't have to be an energetic response. You could use this for getting a downward response. It's just kind of easier, I think, to explain an upward response, but a downward transition, they're all transitions. So you can use it for either. It's going to be about just getting that response because they're two different lessons. Then next week, we'll do an experiment on maintaining the energy that you want. Whether that is an up level energy or a down level energy, doesn't matter. It will work for both. Okay. I'm going to tell you right now a little bit about maintaining that energy. Next week's episode is going to be with Elizabeth Ricks of Hatha Equus, and we're going to talk about autonomy. Contrary to what you may have been told about push every stride or keep squeezing or whatever that is not the best way. It's not the easiest way. It's not self-carriage. Your horse being able to maintain their energy on their own is a form of self-carriage and autonomy. If you want your riding life to be easier, and I am a lazy rider, plus I want to do other things besides kick my horse around to trot. Like, that's silly. We can teach them to maintain the energy that we want. I think of it like echo my energy. I'm showing you an energy. I'm asking you to keep going with me. This is where your own body is alive, adjustable, responsive. If we're going to practice echo my energy, let's say get into the trot that you want. If you got to work for it, work for it. Just get there. Get to the trot that you want. When you really like that trot, keep your body alive. Follow actively, but don't kick, don't pull, whichever one you think you have to do. Stay present in your body and just feel what happens. Does your horse speed up? Does your horse slow down? Do they maintain for a little bit of time and then they speed up or slow down? That's important to know. If they immediately drop out or they immediately speed up, then you definitely have an echo my energy problem and a self-carriage problem. If they slow down, as soon as you feel it, don't be daydreaming and then realize, oh God, we're going really slow. Be present as soon as you feel that slowing down. You're going to send them forward to a little bit faster than you were going, a little bit faster than your best trot you thought that you had. Go a little bit faster. Then remove the aids again, staying alive in your body. They can settle back to that speed that you really liked, but they can't drop below. If they drop below, you're speeding them up again a little bit faster. Pretty soon, the horse will figure out that it's just easier to maintain, especially if you maintain the energy within your own body, you're present in your mind, you notice when they lose it, and you can be happy, be like, yes. I mean, when they get up, they go faster than you want them to go. You can say, yeah, that's it. You can talk out loud. I don't care. Whatever. You can give them a pat, whatever, whatever. But when you want them to maintain, like, be happy, be like, yeah, this is the trot that I want. They can feel that. They will know. If you have the opposite problem and you need to slow the horse down, it's all basically the same in reverse, depending on the speediness of your horse, and you may need to add in some other obstacles. Usually with horses that are energy conservation, simply pushing them a little faster will mitigate your problem. Same thing with horses that want to go too fast. Normally, it's a balance problem, and when we tell them they can slow down and they can chill out and they can figure out their own balance, they're usually happy to do that. If not, there are some other exercises that you can do. We're just not going to talk about them right now. We're talking about straightforward testing how your horse's responses to your energy, how do they maintain, also learning about you. How do you maintain, and what is your response to energy? Because those are important things to know. Also, can you stay present with the horse while you're doing this exercise? Can you stay present with yourself in your own body? Can you feel what the horse is doing in your body? And can you use your brain to think about it? Because if at any time you're like, whoop, nope, my brain shut down, then we need to figure out why that's happening to you. In this exercise, you're basically teaching your horse what is comfortable, what is easy. You're also teaching yourself what is comfortable and easy. If you're consistent, the horse is going to start choosing that place. If you've gotten to this point, your horse is understanding clear cues, consistent releases, and where comfort lives. So they start choosing the right answer or the place you want them to be without you having to micromanage every step. And then that begins self-carriage. You holding them there or pushing them there is not self-carriage. This week, we're trying the energy ladder. It's in the newsletter if you want to see it written down. It's in the school community on Facebook, Instagram. Jump in there. It's free. And you can get it in your email if you get the newsletter. If not, you can go to equisenlightened.com and sign up for it. It will be delivered to you every Tuesday. There's also a video that goes along with this. I can link it in the show notes. What I want you to do is pick one simple transition or ask, right? It can be riding, it can be on the ground, whatever you're comfortable with. It can be yielding to pressure. It could be walking off, trotting off, cantering. It could be backing up. Anything you pick. Make it something that's pretty simple for you right now. Don't make it something that you're working on. Make it something that you know how to do, but you want to refine. Before you go, try it with your horse. I want you to write down what your 4 steps are going to be. Now, what might happen is you might get out there with your horse and realize those 4 steps aren't going to be it. They're not going to do it. Horse doesn't understand them. You don't really understand them. And you need to change. It's totally fine. But the act of writing them down or even talking them through on your voice messages on your phone locks them into your brain and gets your brain in the mode. So visualizing them is also a great way to say, okay, these are the 4 things that I'm going to use. This is my energy ladder. This is how I'm going to allow this backup to happen. Now you've built the ladder clearly. Ask your horse with your rung 1, and you're going to see what happens. And you're going to say, rung 2, I'm still asking you. Rung 3, do I need rung 4? In all of those asks, you need to pause and wait and notice. Does your horse make an attempt to do something? Do they flick an ear? Do they lift an eyebrow? Whatever. Engage a nostril. What do they do? What do you notice? When do they start to notice that you want something? A lot of times we are missing that point. So it's a very important thing for you to notice when you're doing this exercise. As soon as you think your horse is like, yeah, I could do that, release. In the beginning, just say, yes. All I wanted you to do was acknowledge that I'm asking you to do something. The one pitfall that most people fall into all the time is that they follow through too much and over ask. So if you start by under asking, then you can transition to the right amount of ask. There are some people who under ask, but they're not as many. Usually people are over asking because they're not noticing when the horse is actually starting to respond. That's why I want you to under ask and notice when that response starts to happen, because then it's very easy to turn on the next level. You're going to notice where you get stuck too. Like, at what point is your brain like, I just forgot what I was doing? Or, oh, I asked too much. And you are noticing this without judging yourself, right? You're not stupid. You are not uncoordinated. You are simply in a learning process. You are consciously incompetent. This is better than being unconsciously incompetent. And you will get through this phase and move on to the next. Being aware is not a bad thing. Just be aware without judging yourself or your horse or your neighbor or their horse. And don't always try to fix it. Observe your pattern and percolate on it. And then if you want to change something next time, do it. A lot of times, once we notice the pattern and we think about it, we mull it over, the next time we come out, magically it works. If it doesn't, then you can change. So don't be so judgmental about yourself and your learning process. Same thing with your horse. When your horse understands your energy really clearly, then you stop needing to manage every step. You can relax. Your horse can relax. And then this is where we get a sense of autonomy and responsibility. Not by totally throwing our horses away, but by giving them an understanding of the process and what we're asking them to do. When your energy becomes predictable, your horse becomes responsive. So before you go out and play with your horse, think to yourself, how predictable am I normally? And sometimes we're too predictable in some things and not predictable enough in others. And usually they're the wrong things. So just think about that. And I'll talk to you next week. Happy riding. All right, horse fiends, thanks for hanging out with us today. If this episode got your gears turning, don't forget to check out Reconnect, Rebuild, and Ride with Heart. The links are in the show notes. It's the program that'll take everything we talked about here and actually help you apply it in real life with your horse. And hey, before you ride off, make sure you like, subscribe, and leave a quick rating or review of the show. It helps more riders like you find us and keep these conversations going. All the links you need are waiting in the show notes. Happy riding!